Let's do it.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, students of the blockchain world. Welcome to Scale School episode number 3. Today, we're going to be diving into our number one kind of topic that we love to be talking about today and across the past couple of weeks, x402. We're going to be talking AI agents and agentic commerce. With me today, as always, we have Mr. Sawyer and a special guest, Micro from MC Pay. Micro, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Doing very good. How about you guys?
Can't complain. Sawyer, what's going on, man?
It's going. I'm running on a lot of coffee these days and very little sleep. So if my words don't make sense, I apologize. But there's just the world of AI moves too fast for a single human being to keep up with. So have to sacrifice something, and sleep is that thing for me these days. So
yeah, You're not wrong. Normally when we started a little late today, that was completely Sawyer's fault. But normally when we do these scale schools, I like to beforehand talk to if we have a guest, I say, hey, scale school is we're vibing, we try and have fun. Me and Sawyer make fun of each other, insult each other a little bit, and we have a grand time. So now everyone watching live or on the recording can know that is the secret to these streams is me and Sawyer just kind of bully each other, and by that I mean Sawyer bullies me, and I accept it.
I'm gonna have to say that's factually incorrect. But it's okay. We can debate this offline. I would not use the term bully. I would say it's friendly banter.
Friendly, depression-inducing insults. Anywho, obviously, you guys know me. I am on these streams and videos all day, every day, pretty much now. I'm Falco, your head of community. With me, Sawyer, why don't you give a small, brief little introduction about yourself?
Hey everyone, if you haven't listened to me speak before, sorry, you're probably gonna hear me ramble. Also known as the Great Axios throughout the Twitter sphere, Telegram spheres, and Discord spheres. I am SKALE VP of Developer Success and one of the lead community developers. And in today's day and age, I am super into hobbyist level AI. So that's what we're going to talk more about today.
But more importantly than Sawyer, we have our special guest, Micro. Why don't you give the peoples a little intro about you, MC Pay, and what is it that you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Luis, also known as Microchip GNU on Twitter and across pretty much all the services: GitHub, Twitter, X, TG. Well, so I've been in the tech space for about 10 years as a professional, mostly developer, engineer, and in the crypto space for about 8, about 8 years. And MCPay kind of started randomly earlier this year because I saw like x402 came out by Coinbase. I was pretty already involved, or at least like reading a bit about L402 and some other payment protocols. And then at that time, I think I told this story many times already, but I bought way too many credits of an API called financialdatasets.ai. I'm sure you guys are aware. It's powering a lot of the AI hedge funds right now, and these days stocks and crypto, like, they power a lot of stuff. And I bought way too many credits, and I was like, I need to resell access to these things somehow because I'm not going to use all that. And at the same time, I was like, MCP, I mean, I was pretty much excited about it. And I read x402 was kind of getting, production ready. And I was like, all right, this is the perfect match for me. I'm going to try and build something for people to pay access to. And here we are 5 months later and doing still a lot of the foundational work to lift this whole infrastructure. There's a lot of things still moving around, and The spec is changing, but yeah, this is me. I'm super involved and super excited about this space, and happy to discuss all about it today.
Amazing. And so, what is it that MC Pay, like as a business, what came? What was the reason behind the creation of MC Pay, and why are you guys kind of entering now into this field?
Yeah. So when again, like when we first started, there was no easy way to add payments to MCP. So like the only way, in most folks at the time, because this was like 4 months or 3 months in like x402 being launched. So most people were trying to hack the transport level. So like you intercept the HTTP request, you see, all right, there's a payment required. You do all the handshake and you kind of like sign the payment request and retry the request. That was kind of the solution at the time. And when I started building one server to like to monetize one specific server, I saw the opportunity to like build something that lets other folks monetize their own servers, like with not so much hassle, right? So yeah, that's kind of like why we started. Things are evolving. We're an open source project, so like everything we build is in the open. But we do have a product live, and people can try it out and see. There's multiple ways to monetize a server. You could easily just plug in your URL and you pick the prices for the fixed pricing for each tool, or you can build with the SDK and deploy it anywhere. So we're not a hosting platform. We're mostly like a way for you to have visibility on the servers you have monetized, and a wallet solution, sort of.
And obviously, a lot of that's going to be involving the likes of agents, right? AI agents and the sorts. So I guess kind of, open question to the team, of people that are more novice towards AI agents and x402. What does agents and an agentic system really mean in today's world of AI and Web3?
Definitely. I think, it's interesting. So an agent, right? An agent is functionally at this point something that we consider to be any system that is leveraging a language model, right? And language models also, interestingly enough, have, I think, grown and expanded. When this, first kind of became a thing, right? Everyone obviously knows ChatGPT. The big thing was kind of LLMs, right? Like everything was about LLMs, these large language models. And now we're at the point where we see small language models that are designed to be much more efficient. We have on-premise or like on-device models that are designed to do very specific things, visual, chat, whatever. But ultimately, an agent is something that is, well, designed to basically work with an environment, use a model, and then achieve an objective, right? And I think we also then get into this bifurcation of like human in the loop agents, which I often refer to as like a prompt-based agent, right? That is your ChatGPT or Claude. And then we have more so what we call like autonomous agents, or I feel like at this point, if you're running an autonomous agent, it's probably more realistic to call it like almost a swarm of agents or an agentic system, which is something that you give it a high level objective and then you just kind of let it go to town. And that is I think, especially in the x402 world, something that we're seeing a significant amount of interest in people building and developing around.
What about you, Micro? Any additional kind of thoughts on that?
What was your original question?
Kind of like what, in the world of AI agents, what does it really mean for, what are agents and agentic systems in today's world of AI and Web3?
Well, I mean, I think Sawyer kind of like covered it pretty well. I think, again, like there's a lot of buzzwords in the space, and a lot of people talk about AI agents, and when I think about an agent, I generally try to explain to people like three main things. Like you have a instruction set, or like a system prompt that kind of guides the LLM towards something. Then you may have tools and then you have a loop, right? So like if you keep these things in an objective, in a closed loop, then you may have like very simple but like effective agent. So that's kind of like where I feel like with MCP or any MCP solution out there that tries to help is like, how can we bring more context into this closed loop? Like how can we there's a mad dog. He didn't like my my comments on MCP.
He's like, these AI agents are gonna take my job.
Robotic dog of the future.
Let's clean
yeah,
up.
But I think that's kind of the what I think and what I like about this space.
No, amazing. And you know that there is kind of that difference between, you know, AI, autonomous agents, agentic protocols, you know, SLMs, LLMs, you know, automations, like so many different things. Like, you know, NA10, like the likes of like NA10, right? I feel like it's actually very difficult to actually call that a AI. This might be a rogue comment, but it's difficult to call that an AI application because it's more of a workflow. It's A, B, C, D. Like obviously you can add in AI kind of mechanisms within it, like asking ChatGPT to do something or Claude or something like that. But like a normal kind of workflow, it's more just that. It's a workflow. So I guess like, how are we in today's day and age really distinguishing between all of these many categories?
I think the way that I kind of look at it is you have an agent is purely a piece of software that at some point is calling out to a model, right? You don't really care where it is, you don't care what it is, but it's essentially you have a model that is designed to do something, text generation, inference, whatever it is. And at some point you have a piece of software, whether it's a CLI tool, a UI, whatever, that's calling that model. And that's basically like the very broad definition of an agent to me. Then I think you get to a agentic system. And I think that is more broadly going to be like an application, right? That is designed to do maybe more, it's designed to consume the agents, right? So I think like, for me, I feel like N8N would be a good example of an agentic system. It is an automation system that is utilizing and consuming agents to provide that utility. That's kind of how I think I would look at it, is I would consider like an agentic system. I would even consider like ChatGPT more broadly to be an agentic system. And then I would consider like the prompt component to be the like agent piece. Because if you look at ChatGPT, they have all these new modules now, right? You can do all these extensions. And so it is broadly a more agentic system. And then I think the term protocol, interestingly enough, is almost when you get more to like openness, because that's kind of just, this is more my opinion, but I feel like a protocol is going to be like your trustless agent protocol, your x402 open protocol. These are almost like, think of it like the railroad tracks that everyone else is going to build on, right? It's like the things that everyone agrees to and adheres to. You don't have to use it, but if you use it, it unlocks all these other agentic systems to either be consumed or be consumable by you. And so you kind of have like, almost think of it like agentic system or agentic protocol is like the bottom level. These are just like primitives, right? Including even like functionally an LLM. Like an LLM can almost be considered an agentic protocol because it's just like, it is what it is. You can implement it so many different ways. Then you have actual agents, and then you have agentic systems which consume the agents. Yeah, I think that's how I would probably phrase it or position it.
And Micro, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean that sounds super reasonable to me. Of course, I don't think I have any comments on that, to be honest.
It's interesting, right? Because like I feel like nowadays, you know, with sorry, with so many different new technological advances and new just things that are coming out all the time. Everyone just has to throw buzzwords. We have so many different things that, you know, I remember, you know, blockchain in 2021, bro, it was just buzzwords. There was nothing. And I feel like in, you know, the kind of starting period of AI now, we're seeing something similar. You know,
I think that's community adoption though. Like ultimately, I actually think it's like net benefit for a developer, even though it's really annoying to people that aren't developers, because it almost these things are the protocols. I think that's like the key, right? Like you actually want these things because it creates standardization. And I mean, I would argue that like MCP, which is Model Context Protocol from Anthropic, is in my eyes probably like the first thing outside of the models, right? It's like the first thing as we step toward that agentic system that I think took standardization to a level of actually making this seem real to people, right? Because now like you have people that can actually build real things. Like I think I tweeted about this a few times. I use Render, which is like for people that don't want to do DevOps like me and they're lazy. I'm not willing to spend hours trying to configure AWS, so I use someone on top. Render recently came out with an MCP. I'm pretty sure it's super insecure because I just put like an authorization token right into my cursor thing. So if, you know, my computer's hacked, my whole render is probably getting blown to pieces. But basically, you know, I was deploying stuff. It threw an error, and then I just told the cursor like, "Hey, go look at the error from, you know, this recent deployment of this service, and then help me resolve it, and then commit and push as soon as you resolve the error." And it literally in like a minute found the error, identified the issue, made a code change, committed to GitHub, push, the service went live, and then it said, "Hey, you're up and running. It's all good." And I was just like, "Okay, you can say what you want about this stuff being a bubble, but that would have probably taken me like 30 to 45 minutes to like contextualize, work through, run some tests, push. This thing did it in like 45 seconds.
I like to think I was one of the first. I must have been in the 0.1%, 0.001% of the population of Earth that actually used, like, the first to use an MCP server, because I pulled a GitHub MCP server that was Unity to Claude. So it allowed me to type in what I wanted into Claude. It would then do all of its things. And then in the Unity game engine would create this, you know, this incredible new, you know, this, you know, it was helping me make my game. It was awesome. I loved it. It was so cool. And I think what it does as well is, you know, and you know, we can look at x402 payments as well, right? You know, using, if you had a MCP model that was an MCP server that was overall better than these kind of standard open source ones that were, let's just say hypothetically, Unity released their own MCP server that was just such better connection and had less dropouts. That was my biggest issue. It was just, it kept on disconnecting over and over and over again. I couldn't be bothered to deal with it, you know. And you could see this thing where it's like, we could see MCP servers mixing in with x402, where, you know, for $10 of coding and MCP-ness, oh fuck.
That's a good one, actually.
I'm really, really depressed in what I just said. you could see, God damn it. You could see like this new, you know, revenue model. I'm shutting up now. You guys continue. I just said penis. Oh my God.
It's fine. It's a human body part. Yeah, I think to touch on what Sawyer was talking about. First, the cursor security. I hope, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I hope it has as much security as my browser. I think it's a web app, so like most secrets there should be safe, as long as it's like in headers, or it's not like an explicit string that you put in the URL path. But this is just me wishful. This is just wishful thinking. I do use Cursor a lot, so
for sure. I think the MCP config is something to be figured out, and I know there's people building stuff for that, but I think they need to, like, if you look at all the tooling right now, you just like hard code secrets into the JSON file, and I have no idea where those get stored. So again, I think that's like, it's early days, so it's okay. I don't have anything in my render account that is super like, if it got hacked, I would be concerned. It's mostly just prototypes. But I do think, and I think this is maybe a good segue to like why MCPay is so valuable. And I think this is something that I've been thinking a lot about. I actually wrote a blog about this last night called Paper Tool. And I realized that in this world of agentic tooling, right, if you're not familiar with tool, I'm going to talk about that really quick. And then I want to talk about the difference in like official versus called like community tools, and why community tools are probably going to be actually bigger than official ones long term. Because I think this is really important to why MCPay is so relevant. So a tool basically brings deterministic or non-deterministic output back to LLMs. It allows them to call functionality that they're not trained on, right? So models are trained on information. If they don't have access to the information, they can't do it. If you've got a model that's trained on a bunch of like English to Spanish information, it's not going to be good at doing mathematics, right? So if you want the model to do mathematics mixed in with your English to Spanish translation, your LLM is going to have the ability to call out to an MCP server and call a tool that does, add these two numbers, and it does that mathematics for you, right? It also, when you're using cloud-based and you're using like custom models for this, it's cheaper generally because you can give it access to dynamic tools that ideally, if we do this right, use less context, and which means less tokens, which means less money out of your pocket. But that's into that. Now, what's really interesting is Ben just said something that's, I think, really important. If Unity had an official MCP server, we are seeing a lot of companies like Render, like Stripe, et cetera, Figma, et cetera, they're coming out with their own MCP servers. And I think that's great because it allows people to have this level of trust. Now, I think that long-term, these MCP servers are going to be included in subscription plans and require something like X402 for free tier. I will fully admit that I am a cheap individual. I hate spending money on cloud-based services. I avoid it like it's the plague. And so I am like always on the hunt for a free tier, but I recognize that like these things bring me value. And so I do think this is a good example of, well, they may have a paid tier, but maybe they want to accept X402 to allow like one-off calls while they're on free tier. But even more so, what if we want to get into this world of customization, right? Almost think of it like modding, right? I don't know the actual market size, but I know there's a lot of video games that have been around for a very long time, and they live almost entirely on like community mods and growth. And I think arguably the world of software is very similar. It's basically like the whole world of JavaScript is stood up by like these random like tiny utility libraries that's maintained by like one random person somewhere that no one knows. And like if that library is compromised or it doesn't work, the whole world just like falls apart. This is.
Do you remember that happened? Do you remember that happened with Linux? The Korean,
yes.
Like it was the North Korean hacker got access to a security protocol because it was open source, kicked out the founder, and then pretty much just completely killed security for all Linux-based platforms.
Yes. They are not sponsoring us, but socket.dev should definitely sponsor us because like if you haven't used Socket, go use them because it actually helps with a lot of this. But a good example is what happened with AWS yesterday, right? Like AWS US East 1 Virginia data center goes out and like half the internet breaks and everyone's freaking out. And then all the blockchains come out and are like, we had no downtime. We're decentralized. But like really, they just don't use like that one data center for AWS. They just use like GCP in Ohio instead. But the reason I call this out is because I think where protocols like MCPay are so important to me is it allows the creation of highly unique tools that are special and designed to do something special, right? Like if you actually look at MCP servers today, I would say from my experience, 9 out of 10 of them, maybe 10 out of 10 of them in most cases, are just API wrappers. That's like what they are. It's just people taking servers, putting an MCP wrapper in front and saying, now you can use my service from your AI agent. And like, that's cool. But what if I want like a middleman in between who is trained on like a whole bunch of Figma data and is really good at figuring out like better prompt engineering to make my calls to Figma's MCP like 100 times better? I don't think that's something that big corporations will functionally spend time building because they don't need to. It doesn't actually bring them more money. It actually makes them functionally less money if they're starting to charge like per token. And so I think this is where the public, I've been rambling for a long time, I'm going to finish this up. I think this is where the public MCP like becomes very relevant and where the community becomes very valuable. Is you, Ben, can make an MCP that says, I want this. You go to MCPay and say, here it is. If you want this, pay me money. And then we can rely on cloud infrastructure to run this stuff and bring more utility to agents. Wrap.
It's all good. So yeah, everyone knows that when they come for a Scale school, you're gonna ramble for at least 15 to 25 minutes.
No, that was good actually. I think it's well put. I think just to go back a little bit on like the origin of MCP too. Like to me, I was like as most developers when GPT-3 came out with function calling, or 3.5, I can't remember exactly. Like it was one of the first models that like actually worked with function calling, which is the beginning, I guess, for like extensions to the LLMs themselves, right? So like you can build these methods or these tools, and you can attach that to your LLM, and then it will call it and do things like this. Was like 2 years ago. Like only 2 years have been have passed. And we have MCP, and I think the MCP and the reason why it was originally created was learning like from all the learnings about like function calling. How can we improve? Because like a tool is not just like you call it and you get a result. I mean, in theory it is, but there's a lot more to this communication layer. What sort of context do I need? Like, and that's kind of like we needed a protocol that could enrich the communication between an LLM and a tool, right? It's not just you get a 402 or you get a 401 or you get a 200 and here's your result. So yeah, I think that's kind of why. And then the fact that MCP kind of became more or it's becoming a very like widely adopted. It also makes it very easy for anyone to just to build like a standalone tool set, plug it into like a system, unplug it, and like it's just very composable. And I think that's one of the best parts of it.
Definitely, I agree.
So as we're kind of going into more into MC pay and kind of like what you're doing, I guess for the novices that don't really need or don't really understand kind of like what it is that MCP is doing and so on, right? Like I've got this new saying, which is explain it like you're explaining it to your drunk grandma. What? Like, I'm your drunk grandma. Explain it to me.
So hey grandma, have you ever used ChatGPT?
What's a ChatGPT?
I mean, like most people these days, like would know, I guess. I mean, my parents do.
Dude, my grandma don't know. My grandma don't know what ChatGPT knows. She's dead, but she wouldn't know.
Okay, it's a genie in your pocket. I mean, this is gonna go like. No, but let's just assume like everyone knows what ChatGPT is, right? And I think like taking Sawyer's words from the beginning, like you can just expand like your capabilities in the chat, right? You can just install these little apps that ChatGPT will use on your behalf, right? So that's what an MCP is. It's just a connector. It's just like a way for your chat or a model, like a large language model, to like expand its own capabilities, because these models are generally they have a good amount of information, like they compressed, but then when they want to interface with the real world, there's no easy way for them to do that, right? They're just these black boxes that cannot really touch the real world. and these connectors do, right? So this is just an interface to the real world. MCPay is a combination of like these connectors with payments. So we integrated with x402 because, well, it's probably the only really widely adopted open payments protocol that we have these days. And we combine both MCP, x402, and we have built a couple of things. So we have an SDK that lets you, grandma, you're drunk, but if you want to build a server, here's this SDK for you to build. And we do have like a beautiful product, mcpay.tech, that lets you publish your server so anyone in the world can find it and use it. And yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it.
I like it. I think I need to have a few more drinks because I haven't had any because it's 9:30 in the morning for me. But yeah, have a few more drinks to see if that passes. But I like it a lot. If I were to clean that up in maybe like ELI 5 terms, tell me if this makes sense to you. Everyone today has a phone. On that phone, you've got a magic genie. We call this magic genie ChatGPT or Claude if you're feeling special, or I guess Gemini if you're really really out there.
Why does Gemini get so much hate? I love Gemini.
I think it's just because of the UI. It just feels very, I don't know. I'll talk about that in a moment. They just changed the context of it. It's driving me crazy. But anyways, you've got Magic Genie in your pocket. Magic Genie's really good at pulling magic out of its hat, but sometimes it makes stuff up because it only has so much information for you, and it's not actually a know-it-all being. So what do? We give it tools. By giving it tools, Magic Genie gets smarter. When Magic Genie gets smarter, Magic Genie is better for you. Gives your life more functionality, more automation, whatever you want to call it. One of the best ways to do that today is MCPay. It lets people that want to build tools and provide them to genies the ability to provide them, and it provides genies who are rich the ability to, pay for those tools. And when I say rich, I mean like you have more than a penny, because that's about how much tool costs. That is the world of AI, MCPay, and magic genies for drunk grandmas. How to do?
Awesome. I'm going to steal that from you when I'm presenting MCPay to my drunk grandma.
Please.
No, I'm just kidding.
I
but
think
like
we should
really,
take
really
that
good.
to a bar. I think we should take it to a bar and test this. I think it'd go well. But
I think as well, like, we have almost, and I feel like we run into this quite often nowadays with ideas being hampered by the technology that is available to us, right? And we've seen x402 really start to take off, but I did the calculations a couple of days ago for like a week ago for decrypted, but it was like the average number of times a day that a person will like look at the internet or pull information from the internet is like, it's like 70 billion a day, right? It's something ridiculous. Now, if you were to add an associated one, could you imagine like Ethereum or Solana trying to deal with like 60 billion transactions in a day? Like,
can I share my screen?
No. I mean, you can, but just all right. Give me a second.
No, it's fine. Let me share it. Can I? If I leave a comment, will it show up on Twitter?
No. Just share your screen. Just share your screen.
All right. Well, no, I'm not going to share my screen. I'm
screen.
sending you this. No, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sending you a link.
Okay.
You need to go and blast this out because you're literally stealing what I wrote last night.
Oh, really?
I literally, man, if no one read my stuff, why do I even spend time writing if no one's going to read it? Literally, I wrote down from a blog from Cloudflare in 2023, they were serving like 40 million requests, HTTP requests per second. That's like calls to the internet. I did some nice mathematics for everybody based on the average cost of an x402 transfer with authorization, potential usage of agentic systems in the short term, called out how much it would be, what the impact would be on block gas limits, gas fees. did all of this.
So did I. I did it a
literally-
week. I did it a week. I did
We
it
can
as
literally
well.
serve all of Cloudflare's traffic at 40 million requests per second with 4,000 scale chains,
Wait. So did you?
which is
also
not
do
even
the-
that crazy.
Did you also do the gas? Like the gas, like how much gas would be?
Well, yeah, that's based on the block gas limit of 280 million units per block.
Wow, we are like the same person. It's really weird.
It's very scary.
Because I didn't even know because I did it all in ChatGPT because I'm not smart enough to actually do it. So I just went to ChatGPT and like wrote down all of my thoughts. And I'm gonna send you after this. I'm gonna send you my ChatGPT conversation just to prove to you that we've done the exact fucking same thing.
Okay, that's awesome. I love
That's
it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
yes. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna mute
I don't
myself. You
remember.
continue.
I don't even remember where we were. Right. So
You're basically
pretty much
talking about
gas fees on Solana. Like, okay, let's just go off of Sawyer's numbers because his numbers are probably way more accurate than mine. But like, let's say 40 million a second, bro. Okay, number one, bro, time to finality and confirmation on those transactions are going to be minutes, maybe even like hours. Like if you were around back in the day in gas wars for NFTs, bro, that was only like that was like thousands, not 40 million, right? I mean, we saw it like 2 Fridays ago, where gas fees, when the markets just dumped, gas fees were up to $300 because so many transactions were trying to go through, but it actually, like, realistically, it wasn't that many transactions. And the point that I was like kind of going towards and trying to get to was the level, like the technological. Not everyone can do this, right? You know, x402, and everyone's talking about like these, oh, this chain, that chain, right? And it's, unfortunately, sometimes you will have a fundamental issue in your technology. Doesn't necessarily have to be blockchain or AI. It can be anything. It can be cars. You know, cars can't fly. They don't have wings. They don't have the capabilities to do it, right? You can't use a fork. Okay, don't give me that. You know what I mean? You can't really use a fork to eat soup. It doesn't work. Stop giving me that look. You get what I'm trying to say? Most blockchains, and by most I mean 99.9% of them, do not have the capabilities, because the way that they are designed, to fully deal with and work with a fully adapted world usage of x402.
I agree. And I think it's funny because I actually went way down the rabbit hole. Wife wanted to kill me because I was up till like 1 a.m. researching this and writing and posting. But the amount of servers that exist in a data center is actually, like, there's estimates, but there's no like concrete numbers. But I saw one thing that said like every AWS data center has like 50,000 servers. And then obviously those are all like virtualized and containerized and all that. And then that's in AWS. Then you've got like all these other companies doing this. Then you've got like, even from my knowledge, like some of the larger cloud providers, they actually subcontract out to like these smaller providers that have like smaller server centers. It's like there's, I don't know, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of like servers, maybe hundreds of millions running the world, right? Claiming that the whole world is going to run on one network is crazy, because it's not about the amount of machines you have running that network. It's the fact that all these servers are doing their own independent things, but they're interconnected by what? The internet. And I think claiming that a single blockchain network is going to be capable of handling the entire world's on-chain throughput is just the most ridiculous thing ever. We're going to need many chains, but I think more specifically, you want a set of chains that's designed to work like the internet. It's designed to scale like the internet, right? So I do think that's where, for me, I did write about this, scale is so relevant, because we can basically, for example, I think this is actually probably the best example today. Cloudflare, they came out with pay-per-crawl, or they announced it. Right now it's in like private beta. I've been trying to get access for like, I don't even know how many weeks. If anyone from Cloudflare is listening, please give me access. I want to try it. Basically, what they're saying is, hey, the usage of the internet has gone up because AI agents primarily are grounding themselves in web search on almost every request. Like, if you use ChatGPT or Claude or like any of these things, you're like almost always searching the web. It's just like you can't get away from it because it proves that the models produce generally better data. And so they're talking about, hey, we serve 20% of the internet traffic. What if we charge people per crawl? Which functionally makes sense because, well, Cloudflare's free tier is kind of absurd at the end of the day. And at some point, they'll probably want to make like a lot of money and not lose money on this. And so, let's say they charge you not a penny. Let's say they charge you like 0.00001 per web crawl. You do like 100,000 a day as an agent. They're still making like a couple bucks a day per agent, right? They're going to rake in cash. For an agent, it's de minimis. For a human, it's de minimis. Like you are already paying those fees in other ways, you just don't realize it. And so now when you think about that, the reality is the web operates in like nanoseconds and milliseconds and like microseconds. It doesn't operate in seconds. Blockchains are not fast enough to handle internet native payments. That's the reality. Blockchains are not going to be used, in my opinion, long-term for on-the-fly payments for most things. For like MCP calling, sure. But if you want to do like pay per crawl, that is going to run on Cloudflare's infrastructure internally. And then what they're going to do is they're going to potentially use like a fleet of scale chains to manage their auditability of books. Because the audit trail of the blockchain is so beneficial. Let's say I come in, I pay $10, they give me $10 of net stablecoin token. Now my stablecoin token can go and be used for basically like deferred credit consumption on chain. I've had a lot of people say like, oh, then what's the point of x402? It's just a communication layer. It's just basically bringing standardization to people, right? So now Cloudflare can turn around and say, hey, USDC is a regulated genius stablecoin. We're going to accept USDC now too. So now USDC can pop into the system, propagate across all the different chains they run, and boom, it gets added to this credit and audit system and they get paid. So for me, the big thing is not that we're going to be doing this on the fly, because again, unless you're running a single server, I don't think you're ever going to be fast enough to move at the speed of the internet. I think that blockchains will continue to get faster, but the key is that they make agentic capability available to everyone in the sense of blockchains were built for machines. Ever try to use a blockchain? I'll call them out straight up. MetaMask, very innovative company. Consensus, great company. Love their team, love what they do. Their product, after all these years, is still painful to use. It just is. It's not enjoyable to use MetaMask. It's painful.
Ever tried to use the in-app web browser of MetaMask?
No, I didn't even know that existed, nor do I really think I want to try. But anyways, the whole point is that blockchains are functionally great for machines. And so now if you have this MCP server that is accepting incoming requests from a bot and or the MC or another agent, and the agent is authorizing the usage of their credit spend, we can handle that. We can literally handle the entirety of Cloudflare's internet traffic on a fleet of thousands of scale chains. Why would you try to force that on one chain where if one chain goes down, the whole system breaks? You could literally run multiple scale chains with redundant backups and boom, you don't have this whole like internet breaks, everyone falls apart problem. So I agree with you. My point is this is needed. And of course, we have to call out the whole gasless piece as well, which very high level. Like, why are we paying gas fees for like microtransactions? It's just stupid.
Well, it's not even like it's not even a small thing, right? Like let's go off of your numbers, right? Which was what 54 million a day, which I think has. When did you say?
That was in 2023. It's probably
2020. I think we're
probably magnitudes higher.
Yeah, I mean weirdly enough, I had 600. What did I have? I think I had 631 billion in a day.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna need more scale chains, but the good news is we can have many more scale chains.
But let's say you did. Let's just say hypothetically, we are doing 631 billion in a day, right? All right. Well, I mean, on Ethereum, you're looking. You're doing. I mean, with all of those, you're going to be looking at $6 trillion in gas fees alone a day with the increase to gas block limits. Even with Solana, when you're looking at, how much is a Solana gas fee nowadays? Like,
well, that's the thing, and I did write about that as well. You can't use Solana as a good example because Solana uses local fee markets. And so the problem with Solana is if you have net stablecoin or USDC being used for all the payments, if everyone's using the exact same account, because they use account models, not really smart contracts, they call them accounts on Solana. If everyone's using the same thing, the fees for that contract spike and everything else can stay low. And so the problem is it's not taking into consideration the fact that gas fees are prohibitive to adoption. That is the reality.
100%. I mean,
there is a world where decentralization requires it. The problem is this is not a decentralization problem. This is a scalability and adoption problem for agentic systems. We want the agentic world to come to fruition. We need the infrastructure that is actually designed for it. Decentralization is not the requirement for it. It is verifiability, which is a totally separate thing that often get conflated together, which we can have a separate conversation about that sometime. Not going down the rabbit hole right now. But the key thing you need is scalability and stable operating expenses. You go try to sell a publicly traded company that if usage goes up 100x, their OpEx is not predictable. They can't sell that to shareholders. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why you have so many of these, corporations will go into, monthly or yearly kind of subscription deals versus usage, because it is a fixed fee for them that they are aware what's happening and what's going on with it. You wouldn't have, a JP Morgan or someone, don't know why they just popped into my mind, jump into this area when, their predicted revenue could either decrease by a magnitude of an amount because there is uncertainty with the likes of gas fees or network congestion or things like that. So could you actually see, right? Hear me out. Whoa, weird world. Institutions or businesses having their own like micro chains to deal with x402, right? And so you would have almost like a conglomerate of individual chains around the internet that were interconnected but were individually their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is where, like, obviously I've been a very big proponent for x402, but I don't think this is actually an x402 question. I think this is like this is almost just more of like a product business architecture question for where enterprises need to go to keep up. And I think the answer is yes. I think we are going to see a world where Fortune 500s, local, county, state, federal governments, worldwide, like multi-international entities have their own blockchains, and they're using it for public information, public file storage, the movement of assets that are relevant to them, showing proof of information, all that good stuff. And there's going to be entities that want to have fully siloed chains. They run their own nodes, things like that, which we can absolutely do on scale if we want to, and there is that request. And you're going to have people that want things that are a little bit more open, but potentially still focus on their compliance structure. And then on top of that, you bring in things like x402, you bring in things like the hosting of MCP servers, the things like hosting agents, running models. And now you start to get into the world of just like, we can kind of build anything, right? Like we could host MCP servers inside scale chains. We can run language models inside T's inside scale chains. We can make agent chains. Like we can do all these things for enterprises, and they can run fleets of them that are fully verifiable and automated. And I do think that is going to come to fruition. I think the important part for them is they need to be able to sell the value back to either the shareholder or the shop caller at the government level or whatever it is. And ultimately we are seeing that. And I think x402 is like, consider it like the bridge to get there, right? Like we saw last night, an individual from the Atlanta Fed, which is one of the state Fed that basically manages the financial aspects for the or city. I guess it would be the city Fed. But basically, guy wrote about government entity wrote about x402, right, and how he thinks that there is a possibility that x402 could totally change the way that humans interact with finance and commerce, and how it could really unlock agentic use cases for the broader world. And so I think it's great that we're seeing people totally outside the world of technology see x402 as this bridge. And so to bring that all full circle, the answer is yes. I think we will see a world where everybody's buying scale chains, even potentially like micro chains per department group, things like that, because at the end of the day, that's how existing infra runs, and blockchains are functionally becoming more commoditized. It is just a question of how we help them solve problems for people. If they solve problems, they will get used. Everyone will have one. If they don't solve problems, and you can do it better on AWS, corporations are going to do it on AWS because they ultimately don't care. Their job is to return value to the shareholders.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Where we are kind of coming up onto time, Micro, what were your thoughts, man?
I was looking into the docs and figuring out how to get started with Scale. I got Scale pilled here. No, like super cool. Like actually, Sawyer, like I think we talked probably like about 2 months ago. I think you found a project and you reached out and kind of like linked up at the time, and you told me about this gas fees thing. I wasn't really even thinking about it. And I think most people don't bring that up, like that often. And I think you were one of the first people to actually say, have you considered like, like the gas fees and like how much it costs at scale, not on scale, but at scale with volume. And it really made me start thinking about this differently, and I'm really looking forward to read your blog post. I was trying to find the link, but I couldn't find it. If you can just share it.
I got you. And I do think it's important as we think about this, right? So I gave this a lot of thought last night. Let me drop this. I'll just drop it in our private chat for now, but I'll retweet it shortly. I think it's really important to think about the actual value of the service. Like, again, right now, everyone's kind of setting their service at about a penny. Some people are setting it like 1/100th of a penny. But the reality is that if you have like static content that you're serving and Cloudflare is caching this content and it literally costs you nothing, why are you trying to sell this for a penny? There's this Connor, the VP of Sales and Strategy at Scale. He told me something the other day that's really stuck with me, which is there's 2 types of like supply and demand like flows in this world. The more common one that we see is there's this huge demand, and then people have to create the supply for it, right? You have to come up and meet the demand. But oftentimes, especially with technology, we actually see this alternative world where we create all this supply. And because the supply is there and because things are so cheap, we actually generate the demand. It's like Say's law or something. There's like this really smart philosopher from like 100+ years ago who came up with this or something. But anyways, the reason I bring that up is because I think for people like you, right, that are trying to help push the adoption for MCP, it's really relevant because you can provide that guidance to people like, hey, someone already built a simple math MCP, but theirs is priced at a penny to add 2 numbers. But like in reality, the cost of adding 2 numbers is like 10,000th of a penny, right? It's served by the serverless function that takes 1 nanosecond. You don't need to charge a penny. You could charge 100 times less. Sure, you're going to make less money. Yeah, but it's not designed to. You're never going to make money from running like 1 MCP server. At least not in my opinion. For like the community people, it's going to be through the growth of agentic systems slowly tacking on more and more of these tools and seeing your servers used millions of times a day. Right? You're not going to make money serving 100 requests per day at a penny. You're going to make a lot of money serving things for a fraction of a penny, billions of times a month. And I think that is like where we can actually generate the supply and curate the demand for the agentic world. So yeah, plus we actually have, I can't announce it yet, sadly, but we have something really exciting coming. Some other people have already talked about it. And I think it's going to be a perfect fit for MCPay we can really help MCPay with our scale technology and this new thing that we're going to be trying in the coming weeks. And I think it's going to be perfect to quite literally experiment with that concept of what if we supply super cheap compute, maybe in different tokens, like maybe if we use USDT with ERC 3009, it'd attract a lot more people that don't have USDC, maybe even use like SKALE or WBTC or like wrapped ETH. So lots of opportunities, I think, to explore and experiment.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I have one last question. I think still
Please.
regarding what we were talking. And have you read, and I'm sure you did, but the deferred scheme, the proposal I think Cloudflare did?
Yes. I think yes. A couple weeks ago. What about it specifically?
I don't know, like it feels like it's super aligned with what you first talked about. That these payments can be like, how do you say, like can be you can have these payments, but you only settle like at a later stage, right? So you don't really,
Yeah.
you don't need like instant settlement on these chains. And I think like my question is more like you mentioned, the current state of like blockchain or the blockchain networks cannot really meet the demand if we have like if we were charging millions of x402 requests per second. But do you think this is like a good solution, or do you think this is more of?
Just sounds like that. I mean, it feels like sorry, Sawyer, but
Yeah, go ahead.
it annoyed me that whole thing. It feels like that's just completely removing what x402 is about, in my humble opinion.
I disagree with that, and I understand where Mike was coming from. I think, and this is the key, right? Is like x402 at the protocol level is designed to facilitate access to a resource that requires payment. Nowhere in that sentence did I say crypto, stablecoin, blockchain, right? At the end of the day, it is designed that if I want to access a resource and the resource is protected with HTTP 402, there needs to be some proof that I have paid for this resource. Right now, there's actually, I want to say a community call tomorrow for x402, which I'm super excited for. We're going to be talking deeper on the V2 spec, and the V2 spec does a really good job of calling out different ways we can facilitate this with things outside of blockchain, right? Like, what if someone wants to pay with a credit card? They want to pay with a debit card. They want to pay with ACH. What if vendors want to accept that because they already do? I think that's really important because, again, there's more to blockchain than cryptocurrency. I've always said this, and like no one really believes me. Everyone's like, no, crypto, meme coins, stable coins, whatever. But like the audit trail, the immutability, the distribution, the fault tolerance, the scalability is so incredible. There's more to x402 being on chain than just the stablecoin payment. Yeah, we all want the stablecoin payment because we like value, but there's actually more to this process than just the stablecoin payment. What's so nice about the deferred part is it basically lets you defer a payment to something that can later be redeemed by the seller. So what does that mean? It means that I might butcher this a little bit. This is my understanding and interpretation. I want to buy, I have an agent. My agent is going to call MCPay to access, let's just say like Firecrawl through MCPay because I'm using MCPay to help aggregate my tool calling. So I'm calling Firecrawl via MCPay. Firecrawl basically turns websites into LLM contacts, makes it super easy to consume into an agentic system. When I make that call, I get the HTTP 402, but MCPay, because they're cutting edge and awesome, says, hey, we've implemented deferred payment. You can pay us off-chain, and we will provide you with credits. I actually think Merit Systems is doing something similar, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason for this is some people just don't want to deal with crypto. They don't have crypto. Maybe in the country they're in, crypto is not legal. Maybe there's huge tax implications. Who knows? And so for whatever reason, they've chosen to go to MCPay. And I put in my credit card. I put in my bank account. I send them a check. Who knows, right? Like I pay that money. I gave him real money, and he says you now have $10 of credit. When you call my system, if you use the deferred scheme in x402, I will automatically deduct the credit. Now, the interesting part is if you look at the blockchain, there's actually still blockchain usage here. The consumption and the proof still occurs, from my knowledge, on chain. Like it actually still hits the chain at the end of it, which is actually an even better use case to say, why the hell would you pay a gas fee if there's no value involved? That's just stupid, in my opinion. All opinionated here. So anyways, I personally really like it. I think it's really relevant because, again, I don't think from a like adoption perspective, the world is just going to be like, yes, crypto everything. I think the world is going to say, we want faster, cheaper, more functionality. Last night, I think I stood in this position and argued with my wife for like 3.5 hours about what to have for dinner. At the end of the day, we didn't have dinner, and she made waffles from the freezer, and I felt like a terrible human being because we couldn't decide what we wanted. Thank you. Because we couldn't decide what we wanted for dinner. So anyways, the whole point is I want to be able to go to my agent and be like, hey, what should I have for dinner? But then once it's done asking or figuring out what I want for dinner, it's going to like go do the grocery cart for me and order it, or it's going to go and order the food because, like, again, I have better things to do with my time, and I'm a lazy human being when it comes to that type of stuff. I'd rather focus on like this or like.
Oh, Sawyer. Oh, Sawyer, I love you. I love you. I love you so much. Okay. Reading your wife's mind is fucking impossible. So imagine like an app or something, right? That was almost like an SLM model that you could go to your like AI agent, right, and go and be like, "Yo, okay, what it's Friday. What do you think about what should I offer the wife for food? Like, let's say we're gonna do takeout. She said she doesn't really want anything. What should I get?" And it comes back because it like looks at all the history and everything and comes back with an answer that actually aligns with what she wants, man. Bro, we might have just saved marriages.
So I agree. And I think this is where this actually moves away from X402, and this moves toward something I'm really passionate about, which is actual language models. And I do think there's a massive opportunity for this, and it's something that I'm personally just like experimenting with because I think it's super cool, is how do you take a bunch of information for personal people and constantly train like lightweight adapters to represent a human being that just keep growing over time. No one, from my knowledge, has actually done this yet and put it to good use, but I hope at some point either someone does or I'm going to build it for myself because I think it solves that problem, and it actually fits perfectly, again, with this idea of like MCPay of, well, what if I make a adapter that represents like me and it has all my random conversations of like how I solve problems, and then I put it up on MCPay, and if people want to talk to me when I'm asleep, they just go and ping the model, and it's like, you know, the great Axie agent, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's all relative to each other and very cool. But finishing up my thought, I think the deferred scheme is very relevant, and I think it's important because this world is not going to just ape into blockchain and crypto. We haven't seen it yet. People will do it if there's money to be made, either directly or for their business, or if it like drastically improves their lives, right? Who went to Google search yesterday? I did not. I just keep going to my like agents and just be like, hey, tell me this. And then sometimes I go to Google and like paste in the URL it gives me, but like I don't go to Google anymore. The agents are better at curating information. So again, they've solved the problem. They've got like 1 billion active daily users or some crazy number monthly. This will get adopted if we find those things to solve. That is where we should be focusing. And I think the MCPay team, Micro here, I think they're doing a great job of helping push that forward. And I'm excited to continue to collaborate with them because, yeah, we're doing something big.
Appreciate it, man. I also I want to shout out to Sawyer because awesome feedback. He's been very helpful and just really going through the whole process of everything we've built and helping us make this a better experience. So appreciate that.
My pleasure. Shout out to you for adding Zod V3 to the docs. Got hung up on that for a while. Sorry, Ben.
No, it's fine. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Scale School episode 3. Micro, thank you so much for coming in, dropping your knowledge, helping us learn more about MCPay. Sawyer, yeah. And guys, we will see you again this time next week for another episode of Scale School.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
That was good.
Not over yet, Sawyer.